What do you do when you have information overload from carnivore influencers? How do you separate it all? Let's break that down a little bit. Hey, what's shaking bacon? My name is Bruno Panucci. I hope you're doing well. So I've lost over 150 pounds on this carnivore way of eating, plus some zero carb eating. So I've been doing this on and off since 2013, when I first was introduced to low carb, extremely low carb, and then put on some weight after that. And then I fluctuated for a little bit. I had a hard time when I learned about carnivore, sticking to carnivore. But in that time period, I learned how to eventually stick with it. So that's something that's going to come up later on. I have a bit of background in this. I've lost over 150 pounds. So if you have a lot of weight to lose, that's one way to sort of figure out who you need to listen to. If you want to convert from veganism or vegetarianism to carnivore, there's some other people you might want to listen to. If you deal with sugar cravings and you can't moderate and you're an abstainer, there's some other people you might want to listen to. Now, there's some people that are influencers who have made a name for themselves that are doctors. And the few of these top doctors are Dr. Shawn Baker and Dr. Anthony Chaffee and Dr. Ken Berry. Now, these doctors have really been at the spearhead of the carnivore world in the trenches, pushing forward the information, getting it out to the people, and dispelling a lot of myths. They've done an excellent job. And usually, you don't need to question what they say because they really seem to really be up on what they're talking about. They have a lot of education. Most doctors don't have a lot of nutritional training. In fact, in college, I had something like 60 hours of nutritional training, which is more than 10 times what they get in their whole educational career going through to be a doctor. So I'm not saying I'm a nutritional expert by any means, but I know what's worked for me, and carnivore has gotten me so far, but I still have about 80 pounds to lose, and I've been at a plateau for a while, probably due to damage to my metabolism, and my body still has healing to do. You can't fix everything all at once. So even though I've been a strict carnivore without a lick, taste, or bite of anything off a carnivore diet, it's important to understand that I might resonate with some people. But what happens when you start listening to all these different influencers, and some of these influencers are saying something different than someone else? Someone's saying eat nose to tail. Someone's saying you should have everything in a carnivore diet, anything that's meat-based. Some people are saying have vegetables. Give me a break. That's something that's just ludicrous on a carnivore diet. The whole point of a carnivore diet is to be a meat-only zero carb way of eating. So that means you're zero carb. If you're having vegetables, most vegetables are all carbs, mainly carbs. What proteins there are in those vegetables and fruits, they don't really absorb in the body very well. So yeah, it's there, but good luck trying to build off of that if you're a bodybuilder and you want to put on a lot of muscle with some lean protein coming from vegetables or fruit. Because you know what? Any of those people you're thinking, well, what about this person? Well, they're probably doing steroids. They will only get so big eating that way. And that's fine. But are they healthy? In lots of other ways, yes. Dr. Paul Saladino, he's someone that lots of people listen to. And in my opinion, he's muddying the waters. Now, is his way of eating better than the standard American diet? Absolutely. Do I agree with him calling him a hyper carnivore diet? Well, I guess technically that's what he's doing. He's confusing people and muddying the waters with the word carnivore in that title. I'm not trying to diss him. That's not the point of this video. I'm sure a lot of that has to do with profit and being an influencer. He's trying to, keep on going with this influence that he has. But I'm personally not a fan of that because it's confusing people. People who have carbohydrate addiction and they can't moderate are thinking, what, I can have honey on this? I can still have salads and fruits and vegetables? Well, he's confusing people with this information. People who are new to carnivore and maybe they're trying to figure out what's working. So they try that and it doesn't work too well for them. And they go, I tried it, it didn't work. Well, what version of carnivore were you doing? I don't know, I was following Dr. Paul Saladino. When you're young, you could probably get away with that. But once you start getting into your 30s, 40s, especially your 50s and 60s, I think you might have to be a little more strict. If you have a lifetime of obesity under your belt, a clean diet, like Paul Saladino recommends, might not work well enough for you, and you might have to go more strict. Dr. Shawn Baker is a perfect example of someone who's very strict. I remember seeing a video years ago where he said he had something off the carnivore diet, and it was a piece of parsley that happened to be on a steak that he had. And he's like, oh, I had a vegetable. And it's true, right? Like some people have to be very strict. So I'm very strict. I can't afford it because I suffer from that carbohydrate addiction. I can't have anything off a carnivore diet because I can guarantee, I've done this before, I'll go right back to eating carbohydrates. It's a slippery slope with me, just like it would be for an alcoholic having just one sip of alcohol. Yeah, but it's watered down alcohol. It's a really weak alcohol. Doesn't matter to that alcoholic, does it? It doesn't matter if you're a smoker and you have that one little drag. It's only a little drag and it's got a filter at the end of the cigarette. Just have it. It won't bother you. How many smokers have you known through the years who went back to smoking after years of being a non-smoker because they had one drag, maybe while they're out with some friends, having a few drinks, and boom, they had a cigarette, they've gone back to smoking. And it's a hard addiction to quit. I admire people who have quit smoking and drinking because it's an addiction, as well as people who have gotten to the point where they've learned to cut out carbohydrates because they have to. They finally accepted that they can't moderate. They have to abstain from carbohydrates. Then that works for them because carbohydrates, there's sugar in carbohydrates. So I always use the term interchangeably, carbohydrates and sugar, because it, at the end of the day, turns into sugar in the body. So it's not good for us, for those of us who have sensitivities with insulin resistance. It's not really good for us to have carbohydrates to begin with. So how do you figure this out? You have all these influencers out there. After you have this level of doctors, you have a bunch of people underneath that are telling you what to do and what not to do. Do this and don't do that. And you know what? Everyone's different. This is what you have to keep in mind. First and foremost, everyone's different. What works for me might not work for you. What works for someone else might not work for me. I've had good results getting to where I am. I do coaching with an influencer that I highly recommend, Kelly Hogan, because she's gone through what I've gone through. She lost a lot of weight and she's been doing carnivore for over 13 years and 5 years of virtually zero carb before that. How do you get past that? That's exactly my history. So I really resonate with her story. She's a carb addict. She doesn't dare go down that road of having anything off a carnivore diet. She doesn't do well when she has something that was marinated in certain sauces, right? It still has an effect on her in a negative way. So you have to find an influencer that you resonate with. Those doctors that I mentioned before, I highly recommend listening to. They're seldom wrong, or there's seldom anything I might even raise a finger at and go, I don't know if I really agree with that. It's really rare to have someone who is an influencer, who's even a medical professional, quite frankly, who's more consistently right than they're wrong, dramatically so. And those guys really know their game. Those doctors really know what they're talking about, and they deserve to be at the level they're at in this carnivore community because they give solid advice consistently. There's always going to be exceptions, and what they say, or the people that it helps, they're almost always on the button. They don't mince words. They're pretty straightforward. So like I said, you're probably good with those three just to start. Listen to them first. When it comes to influencers, look at people who have years of experience. That helps. And or people who have accomplished a lot on a carnivore diet. Like I said, I resonate with Kelly Hogan, long-term carnivore. She's one of the people that was in the trenches learning about carnivore when there was zero science out there on carnivore. Now there is a little science on carnivore, but back then there was virtually zero science on carnivore. So they were figuring it out as they were going along. Now that she had mentors when she started a carnivore way of eating, and now she's mentoring others. So there's other mentors out there that have coaching groups. I'm not saying anything against them. I don't know enough about them, to be honest, to recommend or not recommend them. But I notice people, when they start carnivore, they get confused. They're trying to understand carnivore. They've been doing it for maybe a few weeks or a few months, and they have so many people they're following, they don't know who to listen to and how to decipher or break down the information that is suitable for them. What I think almost any of these influencers will recommend, what I recommend myself, is eat meat. Don't measure, keep it high fat. When you're hungry, eat some more, eat till you're satiated, and stick to those rules. Get enough water, not so much that you're depleting your minerals in your body and flushing them out, but get enough water. And just make sure you're eating enough. Too many people start this as a way to lose weight. And what happens often is they end up thinking, okay, I'm only gonna have a pound of meat a day, or maybe a pound and a half of meat a day. Well, that's great if you're 4'8", but if you're a grown adult, male or female, you need a lot more than that. You gotta probably start at least 2,000 calories a day. Now, if you have a lot of activity in your lifestyle, you might need a little bit more. I am currently doing 6,000 calories a day, easily 5,000, sometimes up to 6,000 calories a day. And you're thinking, wait a minute, Bruno, you're at a plateau. I think I just figured this out. Well, let me explain this to you. I've ranged from 6,000 calories a day down to about 2,500 calories a day, alternate fasting, fat fasting. I've done lots of different things: high protein, moderate protein, low protein, weeks at a time, months at a time. I've done different things along with a weight training regime as well. So I've tried lots of different things. Kelly Hogan has tried lots of different things. She does this to try and understand the people she's giving advice to who have hit plateaus because they're in the same situation I'm in. There's lots of influencers who offer coaching out there. Kelly Hogan is one of the major people out there. She has lots of groups and she has a Facebook group that goes along with that. Steak and Butter Gal has a team of people that are helping her out with the coaching. So she comes from a vegetarian and vegan background. If you come from that background, she might be the person you want to follow. For me, I don't come from that background, though I've explored those ways of eating. I wasn't married to them for very long, probably about 6 months, just to experience what it was like. You want to try and figure out how to break this information down. Narrow your window of influencers. Find people you resonate with who seem to make sense. Because the problem is when you're starting a carnivore diet, none of it makes sense. Because the first time you heard about the carnivore diet, you thought, are you serious? You're only eating meat? That is not healthy. Well, welcome to the club. Everyone else thought the same thing when they first heard about the carnivore diet. I can almost guarantee it. It's not natural to do, but the results have been stupendous. And you can't argue with the results. Is it for everybody? No, of course it's not. There's no one way of eating out there that's going to help everybody. Everyone is built different. What you need to do is figure out if carnivore is the way for you to go. Which doctors are you following? Which version of carnivore are you following? Because there's lots of different versions out there. And then as far as the influencers down from there that have that formal education in medicine, which influencers have a lot of experience and which influencers do you resonate with? So try and break this down. Try and make a little list to figure it out and narrow your options if you're getting confused starting a carnivore diet, or maybe if you've been at it for 6 months or a year. There's lots of Facebook groups you can go to, and keep that in mind. Some of these Facebook groups are more friendly than others. Some of these Facebook groups offer a lot of help. Some of them can be really closed-minded or dogmatic. So you want to watch that, okay? So don't get too caught up or you're trying to ask genuine questions, because some of these groups, I noticed Zeroing In on Health, it's a good Facebook group. If you want to get a lot of information because it's been around for so long, that's one of the best places to go. If you need a hand with your carnivore journey, reach out to some of those people and they might be able to help you. All right, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot and take care.